Do not modify your Subaru like mine. I know my car might look pretty cool, but unfortunately it just doesn't drive as good as it looks. So in today's video, we're going to be covering the modifications I've done to this car over the past 8 years, including the ones that I like, the ones I wish I never did, and end the video out with modifications that are coming soon to make this thing how it should have been. Let's start out with the modifications that I love. And that is going to include probably the biggest one of them all, the engine build. The quick version rundown of the modifications done to the engine is forged rotating assembly. It's got 268 duration cams, got titanium springs and retainers, and that's pretty much it as far as what's in there. But within the engine build and the bolt-on category, there is some modifications that I'll address here soon that I wish I upgraded earlier. We'll touch on that in just a minute. Number 2 is the full exhaust setup. Now look, I think the car sounds great. It's just the very traditional Subaru rumble, but it's almost like a symphony. You want a little bit of turbo spool, not doing too much, and then you want the rumble, but not crazy raspy. That's something that I really like, and the setup that I'm running is an NVIDIA Catalyst downpipe to an NVIDIA Q300. It looks almost like an OEM Plus out the back. It's a straight exit. I want to say it's probably like a 3, maybe 4 inch. I think it sounds amazing. We'll put some exhaust clips in right here. Number 3, I don't know if you consider this a modification or just an OEM upgrade, but the full STI swap with the DCCD Pro. Obviously, I love it. The transmission feels amazing. I know it can hold all the power. So if you have a WRX, it's pretty obvious to do the STI swap. I got no complaints on it, never had an issue with it. And I'm talking the entire drivetrain swap. Like obviously axles, 5x114 hubs, transmission with the DCC Pro, and the diff, everything is just way better. The axles, everything is beefier. It's pretty obvious, STI swap, but it needed to be noted. I don't regret it. It was amazing. And the STI cluster. It looks nice. Now this may be quite small, but another little thing is powder coating your Brembos. If you're doing the STI swap, highly recommend powder coating your Brembos. It's gonna make your car stand out. There's no performance gain in it really, besides maybe rebuilding your calipers while you do it. But I love my calipers. I've always wanted blue calipers, and then I put my little AV Performance logo on there. You can customize it however you want, or just leave the Brembo. But definitely something to be noted. I've been in love with it since I did it like 4 years ago. So powder coating Brembos I think is a great little modification. While you're doing the STI swap, rebuild them, powder coat them. It's not too expensive, so love it. Now this one kind of hurts to say, but it's the truth. When I did the modification, I really did like it. I had no regrets while I was doing it. I cut straight into my car, and that is the flares. I think the flares, they look amazing, but I wish I did a little bit more research as far as what it takes to really run flares and know the height that you're gonna have to run at and know all the rubbing issues you're going to run into in the rear. Putting flares on a 4-door, if you're not gonna do it super professionally and take it to someone to almost do like a rear tub kind of action, get super close to your door, make it flat, weld in, like it's gotta be crazy, which I didn't do. I just cut it myself. I've had to go in there multiple times because I've always had rubbing issues with the car in the rear, but I didn't do enough research to know that there's a lot of work that you have to do in order to run flares and run like super low without having rubbing issues in the back. The front's no big deal, but the rear, I really wish I didn't cut it, I'll be honest. Now another modification that I had to end up pretty much doing to compensate for the flares as well is the air suspension. I've tried to defend them a long time, but honestly, it's not that they're horrible, it's just not great. I'll be honest. After owning the Miata, which felt great, driving the mountains with the dialed set of coilovers, and then stepping up to the E36, getting an even nicer set of coilovers like the KW V2s that I have on that, making it into like that true driver's car, having dialed in coilovers, you just can't beat it, you know? And the air suspension, it did serve its purpose. I loved how it looked when it was slammed on the ground, and you can raise it up and it can drive okay. But issues that I've had with it is, yes, I've blown an air line out, and if you blow an air line out, then you'll be stuck on the side of the road. I had to tow my car. Yes, this happened pretty much right away. The other issue that I had is when it's super hot out, I've noticed that the car rides way differently, and it's like, that wouldn't happen with coilovers, obviously. Had my airlift controller die also, which did take a couple years to die, but eventually the air controller just died. Unless you're going full stance, obviously air suspension makes sense maybe, but I was in a different time in my life, so air suspension, no good. And lastly, this one hurts. First time I wrapped my car, it was great. It was Nardo gray. The wrap was awesome. I did love it at the moment. When I ripped off the wrap, I didn't realize you're supposed to heat it up. Once I ripped off the wrap without heating it up, I started peeling up clear coat. I'm sure this has happened to multiple people before. Messed it up like on my A-pillar, messed it up I think on the roof, messed it up on like the rear bumper. It's just all kinds of nonsense. I guess that was a little bit my mistake too, by trying to just rip off the wrap right away and just peeling up the clear coat. Moving forward, I think I'm just sticking to paint. No more wraps. Now, after all these years of owning this car and owning a couple other cars, I feel like my taste has really narrowed down into more of the direction that I want to start modifying my cars, which is street performance oriented and just having like a really fun driver's car. And that's the direction that I'm taking this car. And here's the modifications that I want to do to go way more into that direction. So we're getting rid of the bags and I want to get a super nice set of coilovers. I may need to get coilovers with front air cups because of the kit that I want to do, which I'll talk about. The kit is just going to be really low. I obviously love cars that are pretty low to the ground when you're driving. And if I'm going to have like an aggressive splitter and all this stuff, I think the front air cups is going to be no big deal. But super nice set of coilovers. I'm still looking into it. I realized I don't think KW even makes them for a GD chassis. I was starting to look into it. So if you guys know super dialed set of suspension for a GD chassis Subaru, let me know. I'm doing more research, but I want something super nice. We're talking street performance. I'm not freaking gonna do time attack with this thing, but something super nice. I'm over the bags. Coilovers coming. And to go along with that, to increase that street performance vibe, I only have the rear lateral links to get some more dialed in alignment in the rear, and then I have a rear sway bar, but I want to also match that with the front sway bar. When I do the coilovers as well, I'm gonna get everything set up as far as corner balance, my ride height, everything's gonna be perfect. And then I need to correct that geometry. So I wanna get a roll center kit, something super important to do. You obviously less bump steer. You gotta correct all the geometry once you lower your car. Subaru, especially WX, like the normal ride height, it's a rally car, right? The normal ride height is crazy high. So when you drop this thing low, how obviously I want it to look when I'm driving on the road, you need that roll center correction kit. So that's something that will be coming as well. It's just a bunch of suspension mods. Another little thing, I don't hate my seats. I feel like a lot of people actually like them. They're called Brom Elites. I got them, I don't even know, 5 years ago. They've lasted, they've been great. I love the fact that they're not, a little flower flying in here. I just got super distracted. What was I talking about? Oh, the seats. So the seats have been great, but I do want something a little bit more bolstered, but still be able to move back and forth on sliders. I don't want a full bucket. Like I said, I'm sticking street performance. Unless I can find the most comfortable bucket of all time, I think I still want something that you can adjust it back and forth, but just a little bit more bolstering. The Broms are not great at that. They look kind of the part, and it's cool that I could slide back and forth, but I'm thinking I'm gonna get rid of the Broms and I want some sort of maybe nice Recaro, something with a little bit more bolstering. I want to swap out the seats. Now, tying back to what I said a little bit earlier when I was doing the engine build, I don't know why I think I got 1050cc injectors. I knew at some point I wanted to go E85, external wastegate. So I don't know, you can't run 1050s for the power number that I wanted and also run E85. So I really wish I would have just stepped it up to like the 1500cc, or at least at minimum, I think there's 1350s and then 1500. I wish I would have right away just did that. I wish I would have set up my fuel system a little bit better for a double pumper in the back, do the AN lines, go parallel setup as far as fuel lines up front. I wish I would have just dialed that in and already had it on E85 right away. But honestly, I was way younger. I ran out of money and I just didn't do it. I didn't realize how expensive all the fuel system stuff is. I knew I had a power number in mind, but the fuel system, it really just wasn't ready for what I actually wanted. I wanted around the 500 mark. I ended at the 400 because the fuel system, it got maxed out. I want to get the car dialed to a point where I'm super happy with how it drives before I start leaning heavy into the aesthetics of the car again. My dream kit is a full Voltex kit, front bumper, side skirts, the whole nine. So because I already cut my car, I'm doing the full freaking wide body Voltex kit. If I didn't cut it, I would have been totally fine with just a narrow body Voltex kit, like front bumper, side skirts, Voltex wing, diffuser. But because it's already cut, I'm doing the whole freaking shebang. I'm gonna do the rear tub. I'm gonna get it nice and sexy. And then I'm gonna fully just paint the car. So it doesn't make sense to do it the first thing, but that will probably be one of the last things that I do, just a little cherry on top. to finish this thing out. So we're gonna be starting out with probably the suspension stuff, get that all dialed in. And I think the biggest takeaway from this is just really having that goal in mind, preferably if you can drive a car that's very similar to the setup that you're thinking. Drive the car, learn everything you can about it, and then work backwards from it. Figure out how you can get there. So it was definitely a learning experience over the last 8 years with this guy, but I wanna hear your guys' experience or any modifications you think I should add to the car to go more of the direction of like a street performance. Am I missing anything that you can think? Or is there any modifications that you regret doing to your car? I'd be really interested to hear it. I think it's gonna be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Catch you in the next one.